Joining us now is Spiked Online Editor Tom Slater. Tom, thanks for joining the show. The Crown Prosecution Service in the UK accused Koskin of insulting Islam, took him to court for it, convicted him. Now there's credible evidence that Islamic terrorists are out to kill him for insulting Islam. So is there not an argument it's the Crown Prosecution that's put this man's life in danger?
Oh, no, absolutely, at least in part. I mean, it's worth saying that this man's life has been under threat ever since he burnt that Quran. Actually, at the scene of his protest outside the Turkish consulate, one man lunged at him with a knife and another man, a delivery rider, kicked him while he was on the ground. Perversely, in the court case, the judge actually used that as proof of the fact that his conduct was inflammatory and disorderly. It's victim blaming, essentially. So what you see here is a real perverse alliance between the law, our hate speech laws, the way in which the Crown Prosecution Service seems particularly zealous in pursuing people who have the temerity to criticise or disrespect Islam, and the mob, people who are willing to take their hurt feelings so seriously that they want to murder someone because they happen not to share their religious views. So it's a horrendous kind of marriage of those two forms of intolerance, I think.
It is so shocking. And look, the issue of how, if at all, strict aspects of fundamentalist Islam can work in a Western society continue to dominate British politics, this time with Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch saying bosses should have the right to ban employees from wearing the burqa at work. Now, to me, this would seem like common sense. Why is it so controversial?
I think it's controversial because a lot of idiots, frankly, have conflated hardline religious practices within Islam with the whole of a religion. They've racialised it to a large extent to criticise a misogynistic reactionary garment, which the burqa or the niqab absolutely are, is presented as kind of tantamount to racism. It's absolutely ridiculous, not least because a lot of these practices are actually held by quite a small portion of people who follow the Islamic faith. It's a very small, hardline, very conservative section of that religion who do this. It's become controversial in the same way that all these things become controversial. People decide they've got to tiptoe around it. This particular announcement from Kemi Badenoch doesn't amount to a hell of a lot insofar as people can, within workplaces, ban people from wearing face coverings already. It's just a slightly more legally perilous thing to do because you could potentially get taken to court for religious discrimination if you can't show that it's proportionate. But nevertheless, the fact that she's talking about this issue, I think it's a good thing. And even though I share her position that a kind of nationwide ban on the burqa isn't the way to go from the perspective of freedom, from the perspective of trying to not dictate what people can wear, we shouldn't resolve from criticising these practices, criticising these garments, which are obviously a block to integration and a harmonious society.
Yeah, well, the issue of burqas has created trouble not just for legal issues, but Nigel Farage's Reform Party, with party president Zahir Youssef quitting over Farage's desire to ban the burqa, a policy that his party president described as, quote, dumb. But then 2 days later, Youssef returned to Reform, saying he'd quit not because of the burqa ban policy, but just out of tiredness. What's going on with Reform?
It's a bit of a rollercoaster over there. I mean, there's a lot of, in any party led by Nigel Farage, there's a lot of people falling out with each other. There's a lot of spats. There's often a bit of a revolving door of people coming in and out of the organisation. This one was a little bit different insofar as he hadn't seemingly fallen out with Farage himself. The two are actually very close. Farage has had a lot to do with Zahir Youssef's quite quick rise up the party when a resignation was originally announced. Farage definitely seemed to take it more in sadness than in anger. And now it seems to have been wheeled back. I think, broadly speaking, this is a good thing for Reform. Zahir Youssef is the kind of person who Reform really should be trying to attract if they're trying to build up and become a credible party of government, because he's very successful. He was very much involved in building up the kind of party infrastructure, in building up their local council units, which we're going to look into, government woke waste and so on. You need to kind of broaden your skill set, and him as a very successful person seemed to fit that profile. But it is a reminder that when you're a small party, things can be a bit scrappy. Party discipline isn't always as ironclad as it needs to be, and that's probably something that they need to work on.
Tom Slater, thank you so much for joining us tonight.